Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're building anything with JavaScript these days, you absolutely need the right tools for the job. And it helps to think of modern JS less as a whole new language and more like a supercharged toolkit, just filled with powerful new features. So let's open it up and get your modern JS toolkit organized.
So, here's what's on the docket. First, we'll nail down the fundamentals with the new rules for variables. Then, we're going to totally reimagine functions. After that, we'll dive into mastering data manipulation, explore some really slick modern data collections, and then wrap things up with a few powerful advanced patterns. Let's get to it.
First up, let's talk about how we declare variables. Now, the old var keyword, it's pretty much been replaced, and for a really good reason. We've got two new tools in our belt that are way more precise: let and const.
Okay, so the difference here is actually pretty simple, but it is so critical. Both let and const are block scoped, which is just a fancy way of saying they only exist inside the curly braces they're defined in. But here's the real key. You use let for a variable when you fully expect its value to change, like a counter in a loop. And you use const for a constant, a value that should never ever be reassigned, like the value of pi.
Now listen up, because this is the crucial takeaway, and honestly, it's a huge tip for any developer interview. Your default should always be const. Start with const. This habit makes your code a whole lot safer and just easier to think about. You only switch over to let if you realize later, oh, I actually do need to reassign this. It's a simple rule, but it tells everyone you write clean, intentional code.
All right, our foundations are set. Now let's build on them by completely reimagining how we handle functions. Modern JavaScript gives us some seriously fantastic new ways to write them, and it's all about making our code cleaner and way more efficient.
Say hello to the arrow function. I mean, just look at how clean that is. It is a much shorter, more concise way to write function expressions. That one little line does the exact same thing as a big, multi-line traditional function. It just makes your code so much more readable at a quick glance. But, and this is a big but, there is one major gotcha with arrow functions, and you better believe it's a classic interview question. They don't have their own this keyword. Now, that might sound super technical, but all it really means is if you're creating a method inside an object, and that method needs to refer back to the object itself, you have to stick with a traditional function. Simple as that.
Here's another new feature I just love for its pure simplicity: default parameters. They let you set a fallback value for an argument right there in the function definition, so no more writing those clunky if name equals undefined checks inside your function. It's just cleaner, it's clearer, and it makes your functions way more robust.
Okay, now we are getting into the really fun stuff, manipulating data. Modern JavaScript has some incredibly powerful tools that honestly feel a little bit like magic when you're working with arrays and objects.
First up, the spread operator, those three little dots. Think of it like a copy-paste superpower for your code. You can use it to spread out all the elements of an array or all the properties of an object into a brand new one. It is absolutely perfect for creating copies or merging collections together without messing with the original.
And here is its twin, the rest operator. You'll notice it uses the exact same three dots, but it does the complete opposite. Instead of spreading elements out, it gathers them all up. So inside a function definition, it lets you collect an unlimited number of arguments into a single neat array. Incredibly useful. So let's just make sure this is crystal clear, because it can be tricky. Spread, well, it spreads, it expands or unpacks elements from a collection. Rest, it collects, it gathers up individual elements into a collection. It's the same syntax, but the context where you're actually using it is what determines its job. And finally, for this section, let's talk about loops. You can forget about those clunky counter variables and all the boilerplate. The for of loop is the modern, elegant way to iterate directly over the values of something iterable, like an array or even a string. It's more direct, it's way less error-prone, and it's just so much easier to read. Sometimes a plain old array or object just isn't the right tool for the job. So let's look at a few specialized data structures that modern JS adds to our toolkit for handling very specific scenarios. First up is the map, and you could think of it like a super-powered object. So what's its killer feature? Well, while object keys can only ever be strings or symbols, a map lets you use any data type you want as a key. An object, a function, literally anything. This opens up so many powerful possibilities. Next is the set, and its job is beautifully simple and singular. It stores a collection of unique values. That's it. If you try to add a value that's already in the set, it just quietly ignores it.
No duplicates, ever. It's a fantastic little tool for enforcing uniqueness.
So when would you actually use these? Well, a classic use case for a set is to instantly remove all the duplicate values from an array. It's like a one-line magic trick. For maps, you'd use them when you need to associate some extra data with an object without actually changing the object itself. Plus, a bonus, unlike plain objects, maps remember the original insertion order of their keys. And really quickly, let's touch on symbols. A symbol is a completely unique, one-of-a-kind value. The best way to think of it is like a secret key. Its main purpose is to let you add properties to an object without any risk of accidentally overwriting a property that some other library, or even you, in the future, might add with the same name. All right, for our final section, let's gear up with two of the most important advanced patterns in all of modern JavaScript, classes and promises. I'm telling you, these are absolutely essential for building larger, more complex applications.
Now, if you've ever worked with other object-oriented languages, this class syntax is going to look really familiar. It's just a clean, standard way to create a blueprint for your objects. It lets you organize your code into this neat little package containing both the data and the methods that operate on that data.
But this slide, this tells the real story, and it's another one of those key interview insights. See, classes in JavaScript aren't a fundamentally new feature. They're what we call syntactic sugar. Basically just a nicer, cleaner syntax on top of JavaScript's existing prototypal inheritance system. It just makes an old, powerful pattern much, much easier to work with.
And now for our final tool, promises. Promises are how we handle asynchronous operations, like fetching data from a server. A promise is basically an object that represents a future value. It can be in one of three states: pending, which is like a package in transit; fulfilled, meaning the package arrives safely; or rejected, meaning something went wrong with the delivery. So why does this matter so much? Well, the crucial point is that promises were specifically designed to solve a nasty problem known as callback hell. You know, that messy, nested pyramid of functions you get when dealing with multiple asynchronous tasks. Promises let you chain these tasks in a clean, flat, and totally readable way. And there you have it. From const and arrow functions all the way up to classes and promises, your modern JavaScript toolkit is now stocked with some of the most powerful and essential tools out there today. So the only question left is, what are you going to build first?